Hello, welcome back to Cocktails and Cliff Notes. I'm your host, Mason, and today we are going to be talking about Theseus and the Minotaur. This is the story of the hero who dared to enter the labyrinth. But before we do that, I'm going to mix us up a slight variation on the Brandy Ice, Brandy Alexander cocktail. And once we have our drinks, we can really talk. So first thing, we're going to take our shaker full of ice. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of brandy. We are going to do an ounce of triple sec. We'll do a 1/2 ounce of creme de cacao. Then we will add 2 ounces of cream. Let's give this a good shake. We'll strain into the glass. Okay, I'm not so sure about this one, so... Oh, it's actually not bad at all. I've made this a few times with ice cream and frozen, like frosted, and this is a lot lighter. It's not going to make me immediately feel sick. You got to be careful with the cream-based drinks. They'll make your tummy hurt. Now that we have our drinks, we can really talk. So let's get into our story. And this one is about courage. It's about love. It's about the thin thread that keeps us from being lost forever. It's really a story about facing your fears. It's about outwitting the darkness and what it costs to win. So let's just dive in. Long ago, the city of Athens was forced to pay a terrible price. Every 9 years, King Minos of Crete demanded tribute. 7 young men and 7 young women were to be sent across the sea and cast into the labyrinth, which was a maze so tricky and so vast that anyone who entered never returned. And at the center of the labyrinth lived a monster. It was a half man, half bull, born of divine punishment and mortal sin. And they called this the Minotaur. So when the time came yet again for Athens to pay tribute, a young man named Theseus, who was son of King Agus, stepped forward. He said, "I will go, and I will end this curse." Well, the people wept, but Theseus only smiled. He said, "Either I will return free or I will never return at all." But before he left, his father gave him a warning and a hope. And he said, "If you live, hoist white sails when you come home. And if you die, the sails will remain black, and I will know that my son is lost." And so, with black sails above him, Theseus set sail for Crete. Well, when Theseus arrived, King Minos just sneered. "So," he said, "Athens has sent me another feast for the beast." But someone else saw something different. Ariadne, the daughter of Minos, she looked at the young hero and she felt something stir in her heart, courage answering courage. So that night, she went and found him in his cell, and she whispered. She said, "No one who ever enters the labyrinth ever comes out alive, but I can help you. All you have to do is promise to take me with you when you make your escape." Well, Theseus is like, "Sure, I'll take all the help I can get, and I don't mind another passenger." Deal's on. So she handed him a ball of thread, and it was spun from crimson wool. "Tie this at the entrance," she said. "Unwind it as you go, and it will lead you back." Just a single thread. It was fragile, but unbroken, representing the line between life and death. The next morning, Theseus and the others were led to the mouth of the labyrinth, and it was a spiraling mouth of stone and shadow, and Theseus very quickly tied the thread to the doorpost and stepped inside. The walls immediately closed around him. They were twisting, echoing, endless. Deeper and deeper he went until he heard it, a heavy breath like wind through a cave. Then came the scrape of hooves, and then a roar. Out of the darkness came the Minotaur. Towering above him was the body of a man and the head of a bull. eyes burning like coal. Well, of course, the Minotaur charged him, and the fight was brutal. It was man against monster, and it was strength against strategy. But Theseus was not only brave, he was clever too, girly. So as the beast lunged, Theseus stepped aside, caught it by the horns, and drove his blade deep. Of course, the Minotaur fell, and the labyrinth grew very, very silent. Shockingly, Theseus was victorious, and he immediately turned around and followed the thread right out of the labyrinth. Ariadne waited at the entrance, and she was just trembling with hope and excitement. Together they fled Crete under the cover of night, and they were sailing towards freedom. Well, they stopped on the island of Naxos, and here's where everything changed. Now, the myths tend to differ, which is not uncommon in this type of mythology. But some say Dionysus, god of ecstasy, claimed Ariadne as his own. Others say that Theseus, filled with doubt, left her sleeping on the shore. But either way, when he returned home, he was alone. So in his sorrow, he forgot to change the sails. So from the cliffs of Athens, his father, King Aegeus, saw the ship return, black sails fluttering, and in despair he threw himself into the sea. And where he fell, the waters were forever called the Aegean Sea. So Theseus returns back, and he's a hero, but triumph was shattered by loss. He had slain the beast, yes, but every victory had a cost. And the Greeks said that the labyrinth was more than stone. It was the maze within every heart. And the thread that leads us out is love. It's very fragile, but true. Now, once again, Theseus, he did escape the labyrinth, but he could not escape fate. And maybe that's the real lesson, is that every victory leaves a mark. Every hero leaves something behind. So here's to courage and to love and to finding our way out of the dark. Cheers to the crimson thread that leads you home.